Good afternoon, it's 1 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March, and this is the 51st of 53 consecutive 5-mile walks from the Gresford Disaster Memorial to the Miners' Rescue and back again. So with 3 walks to go, I'm just about going to be able to fit in all the content I planned. Tomorrow sees a quick trip to Havard and Bersham collieries, a final word from the ultimate authorities on North Wales mining, Alan and Margaret Jones, and the part of the story where my own personal life interweaves with the subject, when I go back to my roots and a visit to my Tide's old house and workplace in the Moss, Bryn Malley Colliery. On the final walk on Sunday, I'll be reflecting on this fantastic experience before returning to the site above where the Gresford dead are entombed, with 2 through and through Wrexham lads and fans who will sing the famous Gresford Disaster atop the fields of Boros and Gresford as part of their tribute to all those who lost their lives. Today, however, is the penultimate extract from my interview with Alan and Margaret. First and foremost, Alan, in brilliantly vivid terms, describes the extreme danger faced by the recovery team as they entered the dark and wet, ravaged mine for the first time, 6 months after the disaster.
Absolutely dreadful. The big one, I think it's about 200 yards down. There's a tunnel between the 2 shafts, and that was to catch any water it could to pump it back to the surface. There were doorways in there to stop the air crossing. As the road went across, the cages were facing that way, so you couldn't get out of the cage and go into this little tunnel. You had to go down on top of the cage with the chains hooked on, and then there was a gap about that much which you had to step over. But when you were doing it, it looked about 10 times wider, wet and slippy. But say that was catching any water that had come through the strata. Now, they'd shut the pit and the pumps had had it by now, the doors had blown off, whatever. But the water was still going in there. So now it's coming down the side of the shaft and down the pit. So the first job they had to do when they were lowered down was to seal them with sandbags to stop the water going down where they were going to go. And they were stood on a piece of metal about 3 inches wide, trying to lift sandbags to place to stop the water. And the idea was if they could block the one side on the Martin, the water would then go down the Dennis and they could deal with that at a later stage. But they got these sandbags up holding the water. But every time they went below that, there was just sandbags holding back huge amount of water. They were so brave to do that, they really were. Tubs had been thrown about like confetti, just blown in all directions. To go down and then get off the cage to try and work amongst that, it's really, really, well, not again, at 20 you feel this anyway. It would have been exciting to go, but it would have been very, very dangerous. And all they had was a little hand lamp and an oil lamp. At the time of the explosion, there were only 6 electric lamps at Gresford, and the electricians had them. The lighting was negligible. But then 30 guys to reopen the colliery, it's just unbelievable what they did.
In the extract that follows, I asked whether the bodies could have been recovered.
It was just yards off where the bodies should have been, and they were told it's too dangerous to go anymore. But the colliery was reopened now.
Was that a fair decision?
No.
They could have got the bodies?
They could have got to some of the bodies, yeah. Well, Ralph he told me that. Yeah, absolutely. The owners said, oh, we need to get these bodies out. But they got close to them and then decided no need to go any further. But can I just explain again? Sorry, one more. If we look into the map, the 2 shafts there, over here is the Dennis section. Over here is the slant. that was totally perfect, no explosions in there. So they knew once they'd sealed that, they were back with a multi-million-pound industry up and running again, and they haven't got to worry about them bodies or finding the real colours.
This section closes with Alan being asked what it felt like for him to be working so close to the bodies.
I can't say I had a lot of feeling, to be honest. I mean, you knew they were there, but I felt that my job was to make sure it didn't happen again. You know, that was my priority.
Rounds were excellent too. Mansfield. Williams looks okay, but the rock is on match 31st when they face Aberystwyth.
In tomorrow's instalment, Alan and Margaret reflect with pride on their work of educating local school children on the disaster in their efforts to keep history alive. I'm equally as proud of one of my Year 9 students, Osian Morgan, who, having been taught some of the skills of descriptive writing, independently took it upon himself to pen a fictional account in role as a rescue worker responding to a mining accident. Here's what he sent me. This walk was dedicated to Hugh L. Williams, John Williams of Dale Street, John Williams of Mount Street, John D. Williams, and John T. Williams.